Feeling overwhelmed by all the system updates your agency needs? Knowing what to prioritize could be the difference between stagnation and scalable growth. So in today's video, I'm going to show you how to prioritize your system's updates to drive agency growth effectively. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through how to assess your current systems and decide which updates will have the biggest impact on your agency's growth. From streamlining processes to optimizing tools like ClickUp and HoneyBook, prioritizing the right updates can transform your operations, boost team efficiency, and pave the way for scalability. So let's dive into how to create a clear plan for your system's updates that supports your agency's success. Are you ready to get your systems in order and watch your agency grow? Go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit that bell icon so you never miss out on any systems tips and tricks. Let's dive in. So the first thing that we're going to talk about in this video may actually not be what you expect, which is bringing everything back to the goals that you have for your company. So when you are thinking about prioritizing systems, updates, and processes, you want to actually make sure they are aligning with the goals that you've set forth. So this is our yearly goal tracking ClickUp template. It's available in our shop. And I just want to show you, visually what this looks like and then explain why this is so important. So when you are planning out your goals for the year, the month, the quarter, etc., you want to make sure it's in order of importance, right? What are the priorities that we need to be working on? Do we have marketing initiatives in play? Do we have client fulfillment processes that we need to streamline? It's all going to come down to that, right? Because to give you an example and to be real with you, there are times where even as someone who's super organized, I can struggle to prioritize things. And so there was a time where one of our main goals were to get more sales and more cash in the business. And instead of focusing on marketing and sales efforts, I was working on optimizing the operations and client fulfillment workflows because I was actually thinking too far ahead. I was thinking, well, what about when we actually are working on all this marketing stuff and then the clients are coming in and then we're overloaded, right? Now, that being said, there's absolutely a balance, right? You want to make sure you have some sort of structure in place before you kind of turn on that faucet of growth. But in this time where we really needed to make more sales and cash, I needed to be fully dedicating my time and energy to doing things like producing content and working on our marketing workflows and also our sales workflows. So our follow-up processes, how we were communicating with our leads, everything like that, right? So that's why I wanted to start with this point of you want to make sure that your goals for your company are clear so that you know when you're working on these systems, you don't get sucked into things that you're not focusing on. And the fact that you can have them clearly laid out here, it might be something that's coming up in the following quarter. So then you'll know that it's not going to slip through the cracks, because that's a huge thing as a business owner as well, is you're worried that if you don't work on that thing right now, or you don't work on the millions of things in your brain, that you're going to forget about them, which is why having a clear system where you're writing these things down and preparing for them in advance is key. So I hope that made sense and gave you clarity around why you need to really have your goals in place before you then decide what you're going to prioritize in terms of system updates. So we actually have an entire video going through this goal tracker. So I'll make sure to link it in the description if you want to check this out, but I wanted to start there. The next thing that you're going to do is, along with knowing what your goals are and documenting them, also, you want to have one place in your system that you store updates and maintenance tasks, right? So there may be things that come up, right? Something broke, you need to work on something specific, but there are also going to be a lot of things within your company that are recurring tasks that you'll want to make sure you're reviewing and updating in real time. So this is Also another template we sell in our shop. And this is also something that, yes, you can build in ClickUp. I'm showing you these systems and processes in ClickUp, but you can use whatever tools you're using as well. So in an operations space, you want to make sure that you have some sort of list that's holding all the tasks for updates and maintenance. Again, like I mentioned, they can be one-off things. They can be recurring things, and you'll see here we just have them grouped by the department. So sales, marketing, operations, client, account management, and you'll see we have the updates category to drill it down a little farther, and then the frequency as well. So this is our template, but in our actual ClickUp, we have who's assigned to the specific thing and then recurring due dates if it is a thing that's happening on a recurring frequency. So, pro tip as well. Use AI. AI is your friend. Whether you have AI in ClickUp or you use things like ChatGPT, put in ChatGPT, I am a marketing agency, I am a consulting firm, I am an accountant, whatever your job is, whatever your company is, then ask AI to write you a list of all of the things that you need to be aware of when it comes to updating your systems and processes throughout the year. Boom, it's going to do it for you, right? Because every business is different. Your systems are different. You can also tell them what tools are in your tech stack, what you're currently doing. Allow it to give you that starting point. Don't feel like you have to stare at a blank screen and be like, okay, what do I need to update on a regular basis? So that's my tip number 2 is make sure that you have a place where you're storing what are the things that you have to update on a regular basis, and then also a place where you can throw in, things that come off one-off. So we do have a one-off drop down here as well. Then the next thing you want to think about also is client processes. So this is a huge part of what we do, right? And a huge part of what agencies and companies do is their actual product, their actual service that they are fulfilling. You want to make sure that you are creating raving fan clients, and this comes down to your systems and processes and how you work. So you want to make sure that you are evaluating, what are the current systems and processes that we do for every single type of client, whether they're a project-based client, whether they're a retainer client, and taking a real look at those and saying, okay, number 1, how can we make this more organized internally? How can we automate things within our project management tool? And then taking it a step further, you can even say, how can I bring in outside integration tools, like, for example, Zapier, or we also use the tool called Make, which was formerly Integromat, and be like, are there any ways that we can automate things that will reduce labor costs and team time, right? So this, for example, is our HoneyBook onboarding process when someone books a HoneyBook project with us. And we also have a video that goes through this whole entire process as well. Now, I understand that right now you might be looking at all this stuff, the goals tracker, the updates and maintenance lists, Zapier examples, and being like, oh my gosh, there's so much that we have to do. But this is why having this list is key, so you know what you're going to focus on first, right? So really take a good hard look and give yourself realistic timelines, because it's way better to do things slow and steady when it comes to setting up your systems than try and rush into it, get it all done, then you burn yourself out and you leave it half done, and then you're scared to go back to it. So take your time. Use our channel as a resource. We are here to help you every step of the way. Also, do not be afraid to invest in things like templates. You do not have to set these things up from scratch. There are resources out there, whether they're free or paid, to help make this process so much quicker and easier for you. So when you are evaluating your systems, you want to have that thought of, is there any way that I can actually automate things to reduce the manual work? It's not just about organizing things, reducing the digital clutter, having a clear plan. You want to make sure you're also being as efficient as possible. So remember, these are also things that you can put on your task list. When you're reviewing these processes, think of these things. Don't feel like you have to review the process and have the action items and make the adjustments all in one sitting. Create a solid action plan. And that leads me to my last point, which is have process review calls. Here is an example of the 7 process review calls. Whether you have a team or it is just you, still put this on your calendar, even if it's just you, to sit down and actually have these meetings with yourself. But this is something that we do as an agency and as a team at the end of every single year. Now, we do this throughout the year. Of course, we are updating our systems and our processes as things come up in real time, and we have those initiatives on our schedule. But at the end of every year, we have a 1-hour call dedicated to a specific process, and we sit down and we review that process with everyone on the team that's involved in it. Obviously, we don't want to waste people's time who aren't involved in that process, so we'll make sure it's just for the team that's involved in the process. And this is where we also open up to the team and we say, okay, you guys are the ones who are doing the actual work, right? So you will know if you feel like there are sticking points in things. And this opens up that conversation for them to be able to express, what may feel difficult for them, or things that maybe they feel like someone on the team is a bottleneck. Obviously, without straight up saying it, these are supposed to be productive conversations. But this is where everyone can come to the table and give their feedback. Not only is it going to open up everyone's eyes to what can be improved, but it's also going to make your team feel extremely heard. So I highly recommend. We actually have these starting this week. We are in the last week of October. And so don't feel like you have to wait until the very end of the year or the beginning of the new year to do this. Space these out. Give yourself time to actually brainstorm, think of the action items, and create an action plan after these calls. And I'm actually going to go through the agenda with you shortly. But here you can see this one doesn't fully count that last one, but the calls that we have on the schedule, 1 a week until the end of the year, are operations and internal process review, content and design process review, sales and lead management process review, team management process review, ClickUp client process review, and Honeybook client process review. Now, depending on your company and your agency, it may also warrant multiple calls. Like, we have multiple different services for ClickUp, and maybe one of these days we'll have literally a ClickUp implementation process review, and then a ClickUp agency accelerator process review, etc. But right now we just have it lumped into one. Now, something else to note on that point as well is we're in the beta phase of a new offer, the ClickUp Agency Accelerator. If you guys are not familiar with it, you can check out our website and see the information about that. But during any launch of anything new, we are also setting review calls on a pretty consistent, usually weekly basis, to touch base as a team on how that new thing is going. So right now, we literally have a 15-minute call with 3 key team members who are involved in the new ClickUp Agency Accelerator offer. And every single Friday, for 15 minutes, we sit together, we say, how did the beta clients do this week? Are there any bottlenecks? Are there any things that we want to change for, the current state for our current clients in this offer? Is there anything we want to do differently for the next time we onboard a new one of these clients? So also, as you are doing new things in your company, make sure you're also having those check-in calls to make sure you're updating in real time. It's way easier to have that real-time feedback and make those changes on the spot than 3 months later having a call and being like, okay, how did everything go? What do we need to change? What can we do better next time? So 15 minutes a week is way better than trying to sit down 3 months later and be like, okay, what the heck happened? What do we need to update? So keeping these things top of mind is absolutely key. And then also at the end of every year, we have a yearly recap and then the year ahead vision. Now, that's not really a process review call, but I put that in here just so you guys could see that that is something that is so important as a company, as an agency, making sure that your team is on board with the year ahead, talking about how this year went and, kind of hashing that stuff through. So the last thing I want to show you with this is actually an agenda for how these process review calls are structured. So in here, we have obviously the introduction and purpose, just spending 5 minutes warming up to the call, giving a recap of, this is to assess our current system, identify improvements, determine next steps. And you're always going to say to the team, like, be open and honest. We want to hear everything. Even if it's something that we can't fix, we want to hear it all. Just be open to hear their feedback. Always affirm, what they're feeling. Make them feel, heard, and that they know you're going to try your best to work on optimizing this process for everyone involved. And this is also time, obviously, for you as a CEO, COO, manager to speak up as well and be like, here are the gaps that I see and things slipping through the cracks, et cetera, et cetera. So the first thing then you're going to do is go through the current process overview, walk through the existing workflow or system, as much information as you have. There may be review calls where you don't have much to go through because you don't have a huge system in place. Go through whatever you have and definitely start with the wins. Highlight what is working well, any recent successes or milestones. You want to start by hyping up the team and also being like, okay, here are the things that we want to keep because they're spot on, they're going great. Then you want to dive into identifying the pain points and bottlenecks. So discuss any challenges that were encountered over the past year, or if you do this regularly on like a quarterly or biannually basis, you're going to go through what have been the challenges in the past, 3, 6, 12 months since we've had our last review call. Note any feedback received from team members or clients regarding this process. Also, make sure that you are using some sort of meeting recorder. We use an AI meeting recorder called Fathom. We love it. I know there are also things like Green, and Zoom is also starting to introduce AI where you can just don't feel like you have to take intense notes because the recorder is grabbing that information, is going to summarize it all for you. So open conversation. What's the feedback? What are any challenges? Then the next 20 minutes, you are going to want to brainstorm for improvements. So now we brought up the challenges. Does anybody have any feedback on how we can mitigate these challenges and work through them, make it easier, etc.? So open the floor for suggestions on modifications, updates, automations, etc. And then again, when it comes to priorities, prioritize based on urgency and impact on efficiency or client satisfaction. Make sure that, as you go through all these things, like I mentioned, there are going to be a lot of things, maybe too many things to be able to hash out and fix in the next 7 days. But make sure that you have an action plan of here are the things that we want to address immediately, and then here are the things that we're going to put on the calendar to work on throughout the coming weeks and months. So open floor, brainstorm improvements. Also, as you're prepping for these calls, let your team know what the call is so they can start thinking and brainstorming prior to the call and bring these things with them instead of trying to think of them on the spot. That's also super helpful. Then we have action items and owners. So make sure that, after the brainstorming and identifying all these things, you assign clear action items for each improvement point. Make sure you assign who is going to be responsible for this thing and then set a deadline, an ideal deadline for that thing. Now, I highly recommend going through this on the call so everyone's on board. And also there may be points where you're like, okay, who wants to own this thing? And you're like actually delegating in real time. But then you'll also be able to take that transcript, that AI transcript, and be like, what were the action items in case anything maybe was missed, just to compare the two. And then lastly, review next steps. So summarize the key action items and responsibilities and outline any follow-up tasks or additional meetings needed. It may happen that you're diving into a process and 60 minutes is not enough. Maybe you need to schedule a follow-up 30 or 60-minute call, and that is absolutely okay. Again, these things are super, super crucial when it comes to really building the foundations of your company and your agency. And you need to make sure that you're not trying to just rush through it to check it off your list, that you're actually taking the time to dedicate and, put some brain power behind it. So do not be afraid to schedule additional meetings if needed, but also make sure you are being efficient as possible. And that is it. Those are my tips I have for you on making sure that you're prioritizing system updates within your agency and your company. And I hope those visuals and examples of what we have done are helpful for you in doing this process as well. And that's it. By prioritizing your systems updates strategically, you'll set your agency up for long-term growth and success. Remember, the key is to focus on high impact areas first and always be ready to adapt your business as it scales. At DeSilva Life, we help agencies like yours optimize their systems for growth. If you're ready to prioritize your operations and see real results, go ahead and visit desilvalife.com/contact to book a call with us today. If you found this video helpful, please make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and send this to any other teams or agency owners that you know could benefit from this. With that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.